Free crack.
Right now at 5:30, the city opens 2 supervised drug injection sites in hopes of reducing overdose deaths. Good evening once again. I'm Maurice Dubois.
Are you freaking kidding me? I just finished reading a book by Dallas Police Chief David Brown. He talks about in his book when crack cocaine arrived in the United States in the 1980s. He watched his younger brother after his brother took crack cocaine for the first time, and he was jittery and unable to focus, and his eyes were darting around crazily. And he said it was so addictive that it completely controlled you and your life from the very first dose. It's just horrifying to me that the U.S. government would be working for ways to get more people onto illegal recreational drugs. But that's exactly what they're doing. We all have addictions. As human beings, our bodies are naturally addicted to things like sleep, sex, breathing. Because of this, if we take a recreational drug, our body doesn't know how to handle that. Our body adds it to the list of things we are naturally addicted to, and it becomes the most important thing in our lives. Why would the U.S. government consider it their job to see that as many Americans as possible be addicted to drugs? Let's read this article dated December 1st, 2021. Smoking crack sanctioned at New York City safe injection sites, driving business away. Well, if you ruin your life taking drugs, business is probably the least of your problems, right? Smoking crack cocaine is officially sanctioned at the safe injection sites New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio brought to Manhattan this week. People are allowed to bring the substance that they prefer to use here, and they are permitted to consume the substance in the manner of their choice. And I go back to this man's book of how horrifying it is that the U.S. government would actually want people and encourage people to share needles, encourage drug use and drug abuse. And then I remember what the Democratic Party and the American news media said about President Donald Trump. They told African Americans and minorities that Donald Trump is a racist, that Donald Trump hates black people. Well, Donald Trump didn't set up crack smoking sites to hook as many minorities as possible onto drugs that they have no way to get away from. Why is it important for the Democratic Party to set up minorities on as many drugs as possible? And yet they go around saying, Donald Trump's racist, he hates black people. Does he? Donald Trump worked every day of his presidency to bring employment and good-paying jobs to African Americans, Asian Americans, females, Latino Americans, Native Americans, Americans in general. Donald Trump worked for every American because he didn't think the solution to minority problems was to get blacks on crack cocaine and keep them there. That's what the Democratic Party is doing, and they're proud about it. Let's forget about the effect this has on businesses, the effect this has on New York City infrastructure, the effect this has on nationwide politics. Forget all that. Let's say you are a black man. Shouldn't you be insulted to be told that Donald Trump is the racist and that Democrats, white Democrats, are here to help you get your crack cocaine? If I was a young African American man and I saw this, I would be so outraged. I would be offended. White Democrats are killing my community. White Democrats are killing my brothers, my sisters, my relatives. One of the things that was left out of the coverage of the George Floyd riots last year was the fact that drugs had ruined George Floyd's life long before he ended up trying to pass counterfeit bills at the Cup Foods market in Minneapolis to buy cigarettes. We don't even know if George Floyd smoked cigarettes. Do you know that? He might have just been simply attempting to steal cigarettes to trade them for a harder drug, because he was on record as being addicted to multiple drugs at the time of his death. Why is it that the Democratic Party can run around and say, don't vote for Republicans, they're racist? But it was the Democratic Party who hooks as many young black men onto drugs as possible. Why? to keep them servile, to keep them dependent on the government, to keep them in their place. Keep voting Democrat, the white Democrats say, and we'll provide everything you need to deliver your drug of choice. But it's not a drug of choice at all. Drug of choice. When the government is in the business of addicting you to recreational drugs, can you make informed choices about the politicians you vote for? No. And this is in fact the goal of white Democrats who run this country in 2021. They want every American addicted to drugs, helpless, depending on the kind, compassionate Democrat official dispensing drugs and giving you the most easy place to take those drugs. Just as long as you show up to vote Democrat and put their butts back in office. Why is it so important for Democrats to live in mansions on waterfront property? I guess they don't care about rising sea levels and climate change if they're living on all this waterfront property, like the Obama mansion. Officials of the Democratic Party live in gated communities patrolled by armed security guards. Why is it that they want you to be disarmed? Why is it so important that when they see a story that triggers a national narrative about controlling gun ownership, that they all jump on it as the most important story because they don't care if Democrats have armed security protecting them? They want you to be disarmed. Anything that furthers the narrative of taking legal gun ownership away from you and canceling the Second Amendment. The press is all over that story, right? But the Democrat officials, they sleep well at night. They've got you addicted to crack cocaine. They live in their gated community. They live in their mansions. They don't care about all the millions of Americans that they hope to see addicted to drugs. Donald Trump had the opposite message, that every human life has value, that we are all one nation, one community, united in brotherhood and solidarity. When did it become popular to hook Americans onto drugs so that you are doped up and don't follow the issues? When Democrats run America. They'll get your kids on drugs the way these New York City people have turned their children over to the government. Look at those kids there in that picture. According to the Democratic Party, they should all be on crack cocaine, crystal meth, and marijuana, and then show up to vote Democrat if you're conscious. Again, I return to the book by Dallas Police Chief David Brown. It's a good read. There are good people of conscience who care about their communities, who care about Americans, and who see what crack cocaine does to America's minorities. This is monstrous what these people, the Democratic Party, has done to our country. When the news media doesn't cover the drug addiction of Hunter Biden, why isn't the media seeing the activities of the first son as a call to action and a national referendum? Oh, it doesn't fit the narrative but give us the chance to exercise more control over the American populace. Think about that the next time you see a trending national news story. Why aren't these reporters concerned about drugs being dispensed to your children? Because it doesn't fit their narrative of vote for the politicians that will control you. Thank you.